Civil 3D provides many ways to edit pipe network objects. Let's examine the different methods. First, we have grip editing. So let's go ahead and zoom into our catch basin here at 10+25, and let's just simply rotate it. So I'll just select the catch basin and rotate it so that it is perpendicular by simply snapping to the curbing in the background there. We can move around here, and if we want to, we can also simply just rotate these to, let's just say, better line up with the alignment. So grip editing provides a very easy way to simply rotate objects if you need to. And in a second, we'll also learn how you can actually grip edit these to make modifications to the elevations as well. You can also select objects and go to their properties, which will show you everything about those objects. You can do this in the plan or the profile view as well. So let's go ahead and modify our existing invert here to actually be at the correct elevation. Because when we first placed it, it just applied the rules and just placed them in there based on those rules. So I'll select this pipe object in the profile, and then I'll go to the pipe properties right there. If you go to the information tab, you can tell what style and render material to use if you'd like. You can also go to the part properties and see absolutely everything about that pipe object. You can change its slope. You can change the elevations. And that's what we're interested in right here. So for the start invert elevation, we need to change this to 89.47 based on the field notes given to us by the surveyors. This one here will be at 88.67. And I'll just click apply here. And notice how it updates automatically within the profile. The plan view obviously will also update. It's just that you can't see it. As you scroll down, we'll notice some of the other edits that you can make here, including the different parts here for labeling. Again, as mentioned before in the overview video, these are simply there for labeling and will not be used, at least at this time, for drainage design. If you want to change the rules or override the rules, you can change these rules here as well. You can simply toggle this off here and then define for this specific pipe that you want this to be set to, let's say, 5 feet value, and so on. Click OK, and we have edited those invert elevations. So let's say, as we're placing the pipe network object, we forgot to select the correct structure. So I want to swap out this part for a wing wall. So again, you can do this in the plan or the profile view, it does not matter. I'll hit escape and select that structure, and I'll go to the swap part tool here in the modify panel. In this case, it's a concrete rectangular head wall. So I'll just select that and then click OK. And then just like that, notice how it automatically updates in the plan and the profile view to show us the correct style and everything. Of course, we again have a problem with the rotation here, so I'll simply select this structure and simply rotate it to the alignments rotation. And now it's rotated at the correct rotation. Again, very simple, minor edits using the grips. So one of the other things that you can do is actually select a structure as well, and you can go to the structure properties. So where this is a little bit different is the fact that you can change the style, of course, but in these part properties, you'll see structure-specific type edits, of course. And what's even nicer about sometimes editing it in this way is if you go to the connected pipes and you select it here, you'll notice that as I selected this, it actually highlighted in the drawing. So here's one way that you can actually go in and change the invert elevation, centerline elevation, or the crown elevation. As with the pipe rules, you can change or override any of the default rules as well by simply toggling this off and then changing any of the settings that you might want to change. Also, as a little tip here, if you want to select the actual pipe network object in the profile view, sometimes it's easier to just simply edit it right here, and I can choose any of the provided grips here by picking them and then using the apostrophe PSE transparent command, which is profile station elevation, to actually change the invert elevation in the profile view. A really cool way to do that. Let's zoom to our proposed profile over here. And we notice that the pipe network objects are completely incorrect. So what happened was we added this one here while in the middle of the pipe network layout tool, and it didn't apply all the rules from beginning to end. So let's simply reapply those rules. And so what I'll do here, again, using that select similar functionality, I'll select a structure and a pipe network object in this pipe network. Right-click Select Similar. That will select all the common items in this pipe network. And then I'll select this one. And then at the end here, we have the wing wall. In the Modify More Tools option, you have the Apply Rules. Notice how you can also change the flow direction if, let's say, you chose it incorrectly, and it would reapply the flow direction based on the rules. I'll click Apply Rules, and if I look at the command line window, it says Select Upslope Part in Plan. So in the Plan view, I'm going to start at the beginning here, and simply click on this, and then press Enter, and notice how it will automatically reapply the rules. And now it's going to ask me to select the next downslope part because it needs to know where to end this reapplication. And I'll press Enter. And notice how it automatically updates those objects. So as you can see, it does its best guess and job to actually put the pipes and structures in here. Of course, we would probably have the proposed elevations anyway, but let's go ahead and just use grips here to just show some of the functionality that you can do here. So I'll go ahead and just select this pipe network object. And let's say I want to change this invert elevation to match this invert elevation. So I'll simply snap there. And now it matches the invert elevation. And for this here, I actually want to match this invert with the existing ground. And automatically, it will update and adjust for us. So how do you change things globally? In other words, what if I initially applied the wrong style, the wrong layer, etc. to the actual pipe network objects? How do you change them globally? If you go to the Prospector tab, expand Pipe Networks, and then in your networks, you can actually edit these in the panorama. If I simply right-click on the network itself, I can choose Edit Network from the shortcut menu, and then I'll choose the Pipe Network Vistas, and in the panorama window, you'll see you get two tabs, one for the pipes and one for the structures. So if I go to the pipes here, I can go in and globally change things by simply selecting them. So let's say I want to go in here and I'll navigate to the Style column and I'll simply select all of them. And when you make any kind of global changes, and this is common for all entities within Civil 3D and a panorama type window, you right click on the header. So if I right click on the header and choose Edit, I can then change it globally here. So if I want to change this to, let's say, a single line storm, I can do so. And then click OK, and then in my plan view, you'll now see that every single pipe network object is shown as a single line entity. This applies to any fields within here that you can actually change globally. Again, you can do the same thing for the structures by simply selecting them and then right-clicking and choose Edit. Interference checking lets you quickly identify pipe network parts that may interfere with each other. Interference checking compares the actual 3D model of the parts to check for those interferences. You can run an interference check to identify pipe network parts that physically overlap, collide, or intersect with each other. There are settings and styles for interference checking. If I go to the Settings tab, Pipe Network category, we have the Interference Style. This simply tells AutoCAD Civil 3D how it should actually show the interference object that does get created once the interference checking is done. So let's go ahead and create an interference checking of our pipe network. So if you look at the Prospector tab, we expand Pipe Networks, you'll notice there's an Interference Checks category. There is another location for it over here in the Design panel, but you can also right-click on this and create Interference Check. Notice the command line window. It prompts us to select a part from the first network. So we want to check the existing with the proposed. So I'll select the existing pipe network there. And then I'll go ahead and select one of the proposed manholes, and it'll automatically know how to find the networks. You can tell what layer to go on, so I'll go ahead and change this to a suffix of -intf. That way it goes on its own unique layer. And then, of course, the style. And if you want to render this, you could render this. I'll set this to just by layer. And then what's really cool is you can actually define a 3D proximity check criteria that allows you to tell it, I also want you to check within a radial dimension. So 5 feet above the pipe, 5 feet below the areas, and so on. That's what we're going to do right here. I'll click OK. Click OK. It'll run interference checking between both networks, and it'll warn you how many interferences it found. What's also very nice is that in the Interference Checks category within the Prospector tab, you can actually see the different interferences that you have in your drawing. If you want to zoom to them, you can also right-click on these and zoom to, and it'll zoom right to the interference that you've right-clicked on. So as you can see here, we've got some interferences throughout this area here. If you'd like to actually see the true interference, let's go ahead and select these. I'll right-click Select Similar. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my existing and proposed structures and pipe objects so I can take this into the object viewer to get a better idea of exactly what we have for interferences. I'll right-click, go to Object Viewer, and as you can see, we have the object selected, and the way that I've defined this style is to actually show the true interference solid. You can also change this to a shade of some sort, like realistic, which will actually show the true interference solid area. So obviously we have a problem where we are outletting into this part of the project and we're interfering here. So to remove this interference or to take care of it, I'm going to actually delete these parts here. So I'm going to select the wing wall and the pipe. I'll just delete them. And let's go ahead and delete this one as well. And what I can do is actually, let's outlet this to the other side and we will reapply the rules over here. So I'll just go ahead and snap here to the daylight area, and let's attach a wing wall to this part. So since I already have it selected, I can go to Edit Pipe Network, and I'll go ahead and select the pipe network parts list that I want to select, and we want storm sewer, not existing, and we'll go ahead and select the wing wall that we want. We don't have to worry about the pipe object because all we're going to do is attach a structure only. Now what's really cool about this is that as you hover over this, you will notice that you get a little icon that tells it it's going to attach to this object here. So I'll go ahead and just pick that, and we have the object automatically attached to the pipe. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually select the alignment that is being used by this pipe object here, and I'm going to put this towards the center like that. And the reason I'm going to do this is I'm going to extend this alignment now, like so, because what this allows me to do is very quickly grab the rotation parameter and snap to the endpoint, and now I have a perpendicular attachment and rotation to that pipe object. So as you can see here, let's go ahead and zoom to our location. This is the profile that was used to display the pipe object. As you can see, it's automatically projecting properly. Now I want to add in the wing wall object, so I'll go ahead and zoom into that location. I'll select it, and then I'll draw parts in profile. And I'll go ahead to my profile view, and we will select the profile view to have it appear automatically. Now what we'll do is we'll rerun the interference check. As you can see, it's actually telling us it's out of date because we've modified the pipe network. So I'll right-click on this, rerun interference check, and it'll tell me 0 interferences are found. We're good to go. Notice how there's no interferences below. This concludes this video discussing interference checking with pipe networks. Civil 3D provides many ways to annotate your pipe networks in each of the different views in your drawing. You can add pipe or structure labels to your plan view, your profile view, or your cross-section view. Let's look at the plan view options. I'll zoom into my plan view area, and let's go ahead and go to the Annotate tab, Labels and Tables panel, click on Add Labels, and then you have the pipe network category. As mentioned in prior videos, you can select the specific commands right here, but these will use the default label styles applied to these commands. So if you want to make sure you select the correct label style, choose the Add Pipe Network Labels option. You're prompted for the dialog box, which allows you to actually select the label styles you want to apply to each of the different pipe network objects. So let's start with our existing. We only want to display the names for the existing and the sizes. We don't need the invert elevations and the rim elevations. So I have a label style already predefined for the pipes called Exist, and for the structures called Exist, and we'll simply click Add, and we'll select one part on our pipe network, and notice how it automatically adds in the appropriate labels. As with everything in Civil 3D, you can select the objects afterwards and choose the grip to actually move the location of that label if you want to. Notice that with the pipe network labels, they actually have two grips, one that will slide along the pipe object, and one that of course will drag it and place it in the drag state to move it away from the object. Let's go ahead and choose our propose. So for the proposed, we want a length, description, and slope. And for the structure label style, we want a data with connected pipes storm. I'll click add. I'll navigate to any pipe or structure object and click on it. Notice how it automatically puts the label at the location of the object. Now you would simply move the label to the desired location. So let's look at an example here where let's say we actually don't have a sump elevation, so that's why we're getting the question marks. So what you can do with individual labels, and this applies to all label functionality in Civil 3D, is you can select a label and click on the Edit Label Text option in the context-sensitive ribbon. It will then prompt you to select the object that you want to edit here, and then I can just pick in here, and let's go ahead and just remove that. Click OK, and just like that, we've removed for just that label the part that we don't want. Again, select it, and then use the drag button to drag it out of the area. Don't forget you have this ability as well to add leader vertexes if let's say you want to move a note around other objects in an area that may be congested. Of course, you would go through and move these labels around as need be to make sure they're out of the way of all the other objects in your drawing. One thing to mention though, although I'm doing this in model space, it sometimes makes better sense to actually do this in paper space, because the majority of the labels in Civil 3D that you will use will match the orientation of the layout. So whatever the view's rotation is set to, it will automatically rotate the view to the view's rotation. So it's better to actually make the edits here because I can actually see the rotation of that label and then move it out of the way, as it will show me the true location of that label at the rotation of this actual viewport. Let's go back to model space. Now let's talk about adding labels to the profiles. So I've got my proposed profile down below here, and I want to add labels to my profile objects. So I will change the label type to entire network profile, change my label style to a profile specific label style. So in this case, it's actually going to use the same exact one. And then the structure label style, notice how I have created actually a separate one because I want them to display a specific way within the profile. Let's say I want them to display vertically and rotated 90. I'll click add, pick one of my pipe network objects, and now I have the labels placed in the drawing. Of course, as you see here, this gets you about 95% there, and then you will have to actually move these to the desired location. I can just use polar tracking to move these straight up and place them where I want to. Notice that with this label style, the drag state does not actually change to a note with a leader, because I've set this to stacked text and turned the leader off so that I could do so in the profile view. Let's go ahead and add a single label to the cross sections. So although we have not discussed cross sections yet, we will discuss this in a future video, but let's go ahead and just simply add a label to our structure. In this case, all we want is the actual name of the section. So we'll go to single part section and we'll just do name only storm, click add, and then select our structure. Again, you may have to move this out of the default location and reposition it however you need to. One of the other really cool aspects of Civil 3D and annotation is the fact that you can add tables for pipe network objects as well. So I'm going to just add my pipe network table in this location here because I can create a viewport and point to it in my viewport, because tables are annotative just like the text. So we'll click on the Add Tables dropdown, go to Pipe Network, and let's just say we wanted to add a structure table. As with everything in Civil 3D, we have styles that are used to generate the objects. So if we look at the style for a table, it simply allows us to go in and define what each of the columns should do. To edit any of these, simply double-click in here and change whatever settings you want to change. I can also change this over here by simply clicking this here to be manual or automatic. And you can change the title style, header style, and data style, similar to an AutoCAD table. You can also tell Civil 3D what you want to display within the table. Items like fill are available, but you can turn them off. As you can see, they are turned off here. I'll click OK. I'll choose my pipe network object that I want to actually select. You can define how the table should be split if you would like to split it at all. Click OK, and there's your table. So now we have the name, the details, and the pipes in and pipes out. Again, this table is annotative and will scale automatically based on the active annotation scale or the viewport scale, and will appear at the 1:1 height as it's supposed to be within the paper space. This concludes this video discussing annotating pipe networks. Civil 3D has a few ways that you can report on pipe networks. You can use the panorama window as well as the toolbox. First, I'll expand my pipe networks objects, go to the networks collection, and then right-click on Storm 1, which is my proposed pipe network, and choose Edit Network. From here, I can choose the pipe network vista, and you'll notice that I get the two vistas that actually show me the pipes and the structures. So as with all these vistas, you can actually go in here, and let's say I want to grab the structures and all the different information contained for the structures. I'll select them all, and then right-clicking, and then copy to clipboard. And as mentioned in many other videos, you can actually bring this into Excel by simply pressing Ctrl-V into Excel. And now you have a nice report that you can actually go in and remove columns for, and so on. Civil 3D also provides some reporting capabilities in the toolbox. So if I go to the Home tab, Palettes panel, and let's say the toolbox is not open, you can open it through this method right here. I'll click Toolbox, and then there is a Pipes category, and it's very similar to the Excel report, except it does a table type format, and you can do a Structures in CSV, Pipe and Structures, Structures, or I'll just double click this one here, and we'll be able to get both. So I first need to clear my selection set of all objects, and then I'll expand the Pipe Networks category and select the one that I want to report on, and then click OK. We'll give it a name of Storm 1. And then now we have our pipe network divided into a pipes table as well as a structures table. This concludes this video discussing pipe reporting.